All right, good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Coffee Break Podcast, where our mission here is to share business ideas, best practices, and strategies. It's going to be a fun one today. My name is Chad Lingafelt from Lockdock Security, and today we have a guest that came in all the way from Houston, Texas, on an airplane just for this podcast, which is pretty exciting. Uriah Ortiz is with us today from Guardian Safe and Lock, and we'll be chatting with him in just a few seconds, right after Chris rolls our intro.
So much to say, we got a podcast to make. We're sipping on lattes, and it's time for a coffee break. It's time for a coffee break. Oh yeah.
All right, welcome back. Thanks for being here today, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's been fun. So, in all honesty, you've been here for a couple of days. We've been hanging out, chatting, and over here off camera is a buddy of yours that came in with you from Houston as well.
Right.
But he doesn't have a microphone, so I guess that's going to be difficult. But Harry is here, and he's also from the UK, which has been fun. So it's got some digital marketing background. So it's been a fun conversation the last couple of days.
Sure, it's been great.
We'll talk more about how we got connected and how we got pulled into all that in a little bit. But first, we've got 5 rapid fire questions to kind of get to know you a little better.
All right.
So are you ready for those?
Sure.
I didn't tell you what those were ahead of time, so
No.
that's gonna be exactly fresh. So, number 1, what is the fastest speed you've ever driven in a car?
About 165.
165. Where?
A couple places.
Like on a track or?
No.
All right, enough of that conversation.
They have what's called the Grand Parkway out there. During the construction process, there's nothing out there for miles. So
Gotcha.
hit that and go.
Ooh, that's fun. So just in a street car.
Mustang GT.
Wow. How many cups of coffee do you typically drink in a day?
About 1.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's all?
Mm-hmm. This one you gave me is equal to about 3. But yeah.
That's why we've been offering him coffee every 45 seconds over here.
Right.
Are you a morning person or a night owl?
Night owl for sure.
Night owl.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
Like to work into the early morning hours.
Yep. Last night we were working until probably 1 o'clock, even though we needed a lot of sleep.
Yeah.
We had some stuff to do, so I'd rather work at night and get up late.
Gotcha. Cool. Let's see. Favorite ice cream flavor?
Cookies and cream.
That's the second person that said that. If you could instantly be an expert in any subject, what would it be?
I guess the field I'm in right now. That'd be great.
Yeah?
Yeah, locksmithing.
That'd be helpful, wouldn't it?
Security in general, sure.
Yeah. Cool. Well, there's your 5 rapid fire questions. You did well. You passed the test.
All right.
So we appreciate that. So I guess just for a quick introduction for those that are watching and are listening, give us a 30,000 foot overview of who you are and what you're doing.
Okay. So my name's Uriah. I started Guardian Safe and Lock in 2010, August of 2010. So this August will be 9 years. Started off with a pickup truck with a camper on the back with a little mobile shop, and then now we have 5 trucks. We have 5 trucks and 9 people, including myself, and that's and we're about to get another vehicle too and upgrade our shop that we opened. We opened our shop probably about 2.5 years ago.
Gotcha.
Right.
And so even further back before that, you involved in the security industry before that? Or how
Right.
did you get involved in that?
So I started with a company called Gordon Safe and Lock out of Houston, and they were a family friend. So I was looking for a trade. I've always wanted to have my own business,
Sure.
and I loved the trade. I loved what we were doing, but I also wanted to step into a leadership role, but it wasn't available. So
Gotcha.
I was like, well, let me go start my own company. So I started my own. It was very tough to get off the ground, and it's been a great learning experience.
So you had some training there, some experience in the field, and then you kind of launched your own thing.
Right.
And so you now, like you just said, you're sitting at about 9 team members as a whole. You've got 5 service trucks. You've got a lot of things happening, and over 9 years, that's a fast pace. That's rapid growth. Starting out at just you, right? I mean,
Right.
so that was a very fresh start. How did that happen for you? How did you get started with your business? Do you have some funding? Did you have some things saved up? What was the process of kind of launching that thing?
no one would fund me, even with good credit. It's like, oh, you're starting a business, we'll give you like $4,000.
Well, in 2010, it was just kind of coming out of a bad economic state, right?
So no one would lend me any money, which I hold on to all those denial letters and keep them a look at them occasionally. But no one would fund me, so I had, by the time I bought everything I needed, I had about $300 left in the bank, and I was very nervous. But I went around, knocked on doors, hey, a new company in the area, need me to rekey your locks, make some keys, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And I might get a $20 job out of it when I was there, and slowly we evolved into a bigger company.
So it was just literal hardcore hustle. You put
old school sales.
Yeah, old school sales. I mean, it's knocking on doors and just
Right.
trying to figure out something. Like it's interesting when you get put in different positions like that. You just have to make it work. Like I think with all of us, there's a deciding point where you go, I'm either going to make this work or I'm not.
Right.
And if I am, then I'm just going to put everything I have on the line and not give up until something happens.
Exactly. Because I was starting to make good money. I was starting to become a legitimate tech in the access control, CCTV, all locksmithing. So I was making good money, and we were finally getting along pretty good. And I'm like, hey, what's a good idea?
Yeah.
I tell my wife, how about I quit all that? Yeah, let's quit all that and let me go out and try to make some money on my own and do my own company.
How long did it take you to kind of get some traction going? Once you started from scratch, I mean, you literally just a fresh company out of nowhere, no reputation. You didn't carry any customer base with you. You just kind of all start from scratch.
I didn't have a single customer. I did get a couple people reached out to me and were like, hey, here's a little starter job for you, but other than that, I had no customers. There was the only advertising I could afford at that point would be print.
Gotcha.
And print doesn't work that well. I found that out.
Yeah.
So after getting through the first 2 years, things started rolling a little better.
So it took about 2 years for you to start getting some traction.
Right. So start being able to not be so stressed out all the time.
Gotcha. Now, how long? Because this part of it is very interesting. When we look at our two companies, if you were to compare them, this company has been around for 37 years. It's got a long kind of traction, and it took 10 years before the company hired its first employee. So for 9 years for you to have grown to 9 people, it's a pretty aggressive approach. How long did it take you from ground zero till you were able to kind of bring on your first team member, or where you said, hey, I need to bring somebody else on?
Probably, I think it was right around year 2.
Okay.
I was like, things are getting busier. I'm missing out a lot of emergency calls and little house rekeys because if I'm busy, I can't go anywhere else. So I needed at least one more person. So I actually ended up hiring a friend of mine, Robert Ellers, and he met me at one of my jobs, which was at Memorial Hermann Hospital. And he walked in there, replaced one lever, wrote up the ticket. Very simple job.
Yep.
And then he's like, when can I start?
Yeah.
So.
Is that good for the interview?
Yeah, exactly. So I knew he's a hard worker. So now he actually had some family problems, so he went and started his own little one-man show. So
Gotcha.
He's running in Baytown, so he's now has his own little.
That's awesome. So from that, and this is something interesting I want to kind of dive into, because you move from a field service tech to starting your own organization. You hire somebody. What happens when you hire the second employee, so the third team member, the third person in your organization? What did that look like, and how did things start to change for you during that process?
I hired my third employee probably a year after that, and the reason why I hired him too specifically is because he was working for another one-off owner. It was just him and one guy.
Sure.
And he had some automotive background.
Okay.
And we had no automotive experience in our company, so including myself. So he brought that into us, kind of got us in the door with the programmers and the types of keys and things, and he got that rolling for us. But he ended up leaving, having to go somewhere else about a year and a half later. But
okay,
we still keep in touch.
Cool. So you are building your team. At what point? Because this is the part that I've had a lot of conversations with people over the years. At what point did you transition from or start to recognize a transition between I'm a tech in the field, I'm doing the craft, but I now have to transition into management, or kind of I I don't like to use the term owner or whatever, because
Right.
I guess into a leader. When you started
Right.
transitioning from being just another one of your team members to actually leading a team.
Right. It was right when I hired my first employee. Actually, I had to start thinking differently, and then I was responsible for keeping him busy. You know, if you're going to come on now, I'm responsible for you being able to pay your bills because I told you you can have a job here, right?
Sure.
So at that point, I would make sure that he was taken care of first, so that I can keep my employee. Because sales were up and down, and then I started. Once I got Tim, which was the one who knew automotive, he brought a new aspect to the business. So it was very challenging because we're trying to figure out the locksmith side, the automotive side of the business.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to learn how to manage different personalities now and different people. So it's definitely was challenging, and it's even more challenging now.
Sure. So you're growing the business, things are happening, you're starting to get new and more opportunities, and you go from, you said 2 years in you hire your first one, and a year later, so 3 years into the business, you've got a couple of team members alongside of you, and now over the next kind of 6 years, you've got pretty rapid growth where you've hired a lot in a short period of time.
Sure.
What are some tips, some tricks, some things that you've picked up along that process that maybe somebody else that maybe in that position now could benefit from?
Patience is a big thing for me. I'm not a patient person either, so I'm having, like I said, the biggest challenge for me is managing all the different personality types and making sure that everybody is kept busy and there's enough business flowing in. So the whole thing has been challenging. It's very challenging, especially the growth that we're trying to pursue. We want to be the largest in the United States, so we have very high ambitions.
Yep.
So that requires us constantly growing, constantly upping our advertising and changing our approach and doing SEO marketing and social media marketing and all those different aspects. So now I'm not just managing the business, I'm managing everything at this point, right? I'm not where you are. We have some structured people around you to manage things yet. We're still in the beginning phases. Everybody that I've hired is also from the ground up. So they've had to learn the trade, and then I'm also having them learn QuickBooks and learn different things, certain people.
Yeah.
And learning how to manage a shop is a whole different thing on top of that.
Yeah.
Because, managing just some mobile units is a lot easier than managing a shop, keeping it stocked, keeping all the trucks stocked, keeping all the service up to date and all the vehicles. So I don't know if there's any tips that I can give you that I've learned. I've learned so much, but just be patient, and it depends on your aspirations too. So ours is we want to grow, but we want to scale quickly, but we need to make sure that we have the right foundation before we do that.
Yeah. No, it's a very important factor. One of the things that you mentioned in previous conversations, a couple maybe yesterday, you were talking a lot about the hiring process and how you are utilizing personality assessments
Sure.
to help kind of understand your team, and as your team is growing, utilizing that for benefit for everybody.
And that's one thing that I did learn, actually. The one tip is not everybody responds to the same with criticism, with what motivates them, all these different things. And not everybody's the same. So that's one thing that I've really had to learn is, so I use the 16personalities.com, the Myers-Briggs.
Yep.
And that has helped me understand different people, because all I understand is myself.
Yeah.
Right. And even that I don't understand fully sometimes. So having them take these tests lets me understand what motivates them. This person, do I have to be a little easier on this person than this person? So I use that test to help me, to keep me in check, basically, so that I know how to talk to people.
So it's an interesting aspect from that you take on with leadership. I think some of the things that you see with really some of the great leaders in business, if you do any research on that, that is one thing that they have really kind of conquered, is understanding how to communicate with different people at different levels and understand where they are in their own individual journey, and not treat everybody the same.
Right.
When you walk into a room and you say, all right, this is what we're going to do, and I don't care what you think, this is just what's going to happen. And you don't get traction with that. So
Right.
understanding that part of it is a huge benefit, and it's probably a big factor in how you've been able to scale in the aspects that you have, and in the time frame that you have, because
Right.
you've taken that approach and kind of understood that. So you mentioned it already that you have large aspirations. Why are you focused on growth? What's the benefit of growing? Because this is an interesting topic I've had with a lot of different people. But what is the big deal? What's the benefit of growth and getting bigger?
So I like to create things. I want to build a legacy. I want to build a company. I want to innovate the trade. I talked to you a little bit about it the other day, how it's a little bit of a dated industry. It's you're very forward thinking. That's why I contacted you. And I told everybody at work, I was like, hey, look, these guys are doing this and this podcast and all these crazy things. And that's motivation to me. So I don't know really what my true reasoning is why I want to do that, besides the fact that I just love to create business. I love business in general. I love the challenge of it. I also like the fact that I have a bunch of guys counting on me to back up what I say I'm going to do. Hey, we're going to do this. We're going to get this. We're going to get bigger and go here. And you're going to have an opportunity to make more money and have a good future for your family. I love that.
Yeah.
So I love that they can come with me on this journey and also be able to have a good living for their family.
So it's kind of a motivating factor that you're able to grow an organization to impact other people's lives.
Right. Exactly.
It's interesting because I had a conversation with someone and they were talking about that they kind of scaled back because they were wanting to make sure they were focused on quality over quantity, and which was a very admirable aspect from that concept. And I'm just sitting there going, well, that's interesting. And it really started making me challenge, what's the motivation behind the growth. And so for somebody that has high aspirations like that, it's something to understand and kind of see where that goes.
Yeah, I've had to check myself and say, hey, slow down a little bit. You're getting a little too far ahead of you. Especially the amount of the different trades different avenues of business we're doing, automotive, CCTV, access control, residential, commercial locksmithing, emergency services, safes, so there's a ton of different things we're doing. So also, since I'm bringing everybody in from the ground up, I got to be careful not to get too far ahead of myself.
Yeah.
Right.
So a few episodes back on the podcast, we interviewed Johnny Freeman from Johnny Fly Company, who's a local fashion brand in Charlotte, but he's worldwide as well. But anyway, and one of the things that he said that kind of made me think about that, and again, it's challenged us in a lot of ways here, is making sure that you're focusing on a few things and doing them well rather than doing a lot of things poorly.
Right.
And I think for our industry, because we can touch so many different things, automotive, safe, CCTV, access control, and locksmith, they're all very similar, but they're all very indoors, but they're all very different. And so you can easily get spread so thin in what you're trying to accomplish that you actually end up not accomplishing anything, just making a lot of confusion. So I think that's admirable.
That's exactly what I've become more aware of that lately. Trying not to grow too fast because, like I said, I want to scale, but I don't want us to get in over our head and then our quality start dropping. Yeah. Right, which we were getting to that point. At a point, I was like, I need to slow down a little bit.
Yeah. Stay focused. All right, well, let's jump into a different part of the conversation. Okay. I want to kind of circle back around, but the reason that you're here, I mean, you're from Houston, Texas, and most of the time when we have somebody that's out of state, they're sitting here on a screen, but you're actually here in person from Houston, Texas. How did that process? Just kind of let's describe how that process happened and why in the world you're here.
Very short process. Look, I'm very impulsive, so that's why I said I'm trying to get ahead of myself. Sometimes I'm like, let's go, right away. So I've been watching your social media page and Instagram, and the guys are constantly screenshot. Hey, check this out. Look at these fobs. He's got their logo on them. Hey, look at this. You've got this. So they showed it to me, and I was just sitting there talking in my office, and I'm like, you know what? Hold on a second. I'll be right back. And I go to the back, and I give you a call, and I'm like, hey, I really admire what you're doing with the company. To me, you're cutting edge. You're a trailblazer, in our industry. We don't have anybody like that I'm aware of. So I get my motivation from other people's energy, and what you're doing inspires me to do even more and become even better, even like, for instance, the doors that we were talking about the other day, but I have to be careful not to take on too much again, like we were discussing, but I get motivation from that. So I just called you in the back, and you were quickly like, sure, come on out. So I went back over, told the guys, I said, hey, I'm going to North Carolina. And then I turned around and gave Harry a call, and then I was like, hey, you want to ride with me?
Hey, Harry, I just told this guy I'm coming to North Carolina, and I need somebody.
Right?
I've never been in those situations before, so that's pretty cool. No, I think that there's a lesson in there, and I appreciate the kind words, by the way. I don't want to dismiss that, but I think that there's some value in that lesson of seeing something or identifying something and then taking action on it rather than taking inaction, right? So there's a lot of process in business where you get in this point where you become indecisive and you can't make decisions. And
right.
So you said, hey, I want to figure this out. Maybe for whatever reason you've got going on in your business, and you said, hey, I see some value that I want to connect with somebody else. Mm-hmm. Value and collaboration is huge inside your own industry, but outside your own industry as well. And we do this all the time. We find people that are doing something maybe outside of our industry better than what we are, and we want to go learn from them. And that's what it is you go sit and you learn.
Right.
And so it's really cool that you took that initiative to just pick up the phone and say, hey, would you mind? I think that was the question. Would it be an issue if I came and looked at your operation? I don't know what you want to look at. I mean, I can make you some coffee, but that's all. But that's pretty cool. So, what are some other things that you've done? Is that the only time that you've ever done anything like that? What are some other ways that you have kind of jumped in that same concept?
I've never done anything like that. But I'm very impulsive, so that's why I said I try not to get ahead of myself too much.
Yeah.
So I was one of the books I'm reading, the 10X rule, talks about the 4 levels of action. You can do nothing. There's people who do nothing. There's people who retreat. There's people who do a normal level of action, and there's people who do a massive amount of actions to get things going. And I'm kind of stuck in that all the time, to an extreme.
A massive amount of actions.
I annoy my wife and probably some other people too, but
Harry, does he annoy you? No, he said no. That's kind.
He's being nice.
This is being recorded, by the way. So with that, taking the impulse out of it, what is some advice that you would give, other people, again, in the industry or maybe in other industries? So we're not just talking to our industry; it's small business in general. Mm-hmm. Ways that you can, or maybe some value points that you've taken from doing something like this, because maybe that's not the norm. I mean, mm-hmm. I don't know. I wouldn't imagine it's the norm for people to jump on an airplane and fly a few states over. What's some value that you pull out of that you can take back to your business?
Well, just do it. Just take the action and do it. That's basically, a lot of people talk about it. A lot of people will do just some minor things and expect miracles to happen. But if you don't take big action like I did, how many things I've learned since I've been here? A ton of things. I've got 30 emails to myself telling me things that I've picked up from you. So just take that action. Don't be afraid to do it, and make sure that you're passionate about what you're doing before you do it too. But that's just basically it. Take action. A lot of people don't take enough action.
So this, one of the things, and I've kind of got on my notes here that I was trying to pull this out of you. Mm-hmm. I have this idea, and you seem to be following this. One of the things that you have not said at all in any of the conversations that we have ever had about developing and growing your business has never been, I'm trying to figure out how to make myself more money.
Right.
It's never been, I'm trying to figure out how I can make wealth this way.
Money will come.
It's always been about, I want to build my business to develop people, or I'm trying to build my business so that I can impact our industry, or I'm trying to build my business for these other reasons. It's never been self-worth. It's never been because of I'm trying to build my own wealth.
Right.
That's interesting to me, because a lot of people's motivation is financial aspirations. Mm-hmm. So how are you attacking that? And how are you is that a conversation that you're having on a regular basis with your team?
Yes. especially since I'm hiring from the ground up, these aren't veterans or people that have earned their way in the field. They're usually younger guys. They're developing, and I love seeing that. I love seeing them come back to me. Hey, man, I got this customer. We upsold him a camera system. Super happy. Left us a great review.
Yeah.
You know, I love hearing that. I love hearing, hey, I got me a new car. Come look at my new car. You know, I'm doing good. I got my new house. So I enjoy that. I like seeing the people that have decided to take this journey with me get rewarded for their hard work. So that's what I like to see.
Yeah, it's and that's very noble. And I think that's what's going to help. That's what's going to help see you grow in the long term, because it's not just about what you can get out of it; it's what you can give,
Right.
Which is really, really cool. So,
And it's not even I'm giving necessarily; it's that they're earning it.
well,
they're earning it.
you've set the table for an opportunity,
Sure.
and
Exactly.
and they, you know, what they can do with it is up to them. But then you get to be a front row observer of those cool things that are
Right.
happening. So what is your motivation and your inspiration? Where is that coming from, and how do you what are some things that you're doing to keep yourself fresh and continuing down the right path?
Coming here, it's always be evolving, always be learning, always never think you know it all, never think you've reached the top. You know, always improve, always improving right there. So my motivation, I've always been self-motivated, very self-driven to the extreme, like I talk about. But my motivation is probably, my number one motivation is obviously I need to provide a good life for my family. And then also everybody that comes on my team, they are my family. Just like you guys are a tight group here, it seems. That's my motivation, is to provide others with a future, and to provide the industry with, another great company, which we need more of that in our industry. But I've always been self-motivated. I read some books to keep me fresh and new ideas, so that I'm always challenging myself and improving.
What's something that you've done or that you've experienced through this journey over the last 9 years that you would say, if I would have known now what I knew, or know then what I know now, what would I have done different? Or what are some mistakes that have happened or fail points that have happened that you're saying, you know what, I wish I would have known this? Maybe a heads up that you can give for somebody that's going down the same path.
I didn't realize how hard it would be to get a loan, even if you have good credit.
Yeah.
So that's one thing, is be prepared for, especially be prepared to spend all the money you're making and put it back into your business for at least a couple of years before you start putting any in your pocket.
Yeah.
So be prepared for that. If you want to be successful, you can't be taking all your money out right away. You have to be investing in new tools, new machines, better technology, subscriptions to magazines that may help you in your field, continuing education, all the trade shows for employees. Every year we get every one of the employees, we go to all the trade shows together, and we show that we're a united team. So we do that. This year we'll be doing that again at the Flake Show.
Gotcha. So reinvesting in your own development is a big part of that.
Sure.
And seeing, so I think if you sit down and talk to any business leader or business owner that is in part of a growing business, that's going to be a common conversation, is that you're reinvesting in yourself. And I don't think people understand the long-term extent that you defer investment into your own self for the benefit of your organization. And so I think that's, if I were to sum up what you just said, the biggest thing that you didn't realize getting into it was that you didn't know the level of
Financial commitment?
I don't know if financial commitment, but the level of I'm trying to think of the word, the sacrifice. There you go. That's exactly the level of sacrifice that it would take to get to a certain point.
So I just moved into a home about 3 months ago. So for the first 13 years of my marriage, we lived in an apartment because I was investing back into the business constantly. Still am.
Yeah.
But it's a lot of sacrifice. You don't just build a business and then all of a sudden you make money and you're just rich, you know. So it takes time. By the time you build a shop, you're like, oh, well, we need more of this. Well, now we need this machine.
Yeah.
Well, now we need this machine. So it never ends. It's never going to stop. It's always investing, unless you're happy and you're content where you're at. But you should always invest the money back in your business. I didn't really expect that, especially the more trades that we do, the more different categories we do.
Yeah.
Each one of those categories has tons of tools that are needed to go to the next level.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a constant investment. That's very impactful, and I think it's something that, again, that people don't realize.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they see certain things from a success standpoint, but they don't realize the sacrifice that comes up. But I think it's interesting too, because you have conversation with a lot of different people in different phases
Mm-hmm.
of business growth, and you said it earlier. It's all what your aspirations are.
Right.
If your aspirations are to just kind of create your own schedule and do what you want and make money when you need to make money rather than trying to provide futures for other people,
Right.
then you're talking, I mean, this conversation is completely different.
Right.
But if you're doing it for advancement and for growth and for development for an organization, then it's a completely different mindset.
Right.
Well, cool, man. Well, so what do you think that you can do to impact this industry? Like, what are your kind of your thoughts on the future of the industry and what you think you're going to be able to do to accomplish that?
By looking, I think that your company as well is going to influence the industry. I think you're pushing you're setting a standard. So as everybody, more and more companies start pushing the standard up, the industry either is going to sink or they need to follow.
Yeah.
Right, and raise their quality up. So it's good. It's good for the industry to get innovation and people that are pushing new boundaries and taking on more areas of fields of work, however you want to call that.
Yeah.
But that's, for me, it never stops. I love doing that, and I think that we've already impacted, I believe, over there, the trade as a whole. I've seen other companies start doing things that we've done,
Yep.
and I'm coming over here to do some things that you've done, right? So I think it's good for the industry. We need innovative companies and people companies that are willing to push that line.
Awesome. So if people are listening, they want to get in contact with you, they're watching, they want to get in contact with you, what's the best way to do that? What's your contact information on social media, website, all that information?
Sure. You can Google Guardian Safe and Lock for one, but we have our Twitter accounts at Guardian Lock. I'm trying to think of our Facebook one. We have a Facebook page in there, but you can just send me an email. Uriah at guardiansafeandlock.com if you want to send me an email. And that's pretty much it.
Cool. Well, man, thanks for taking some time to chat with us today. And we will we look forward to continuing our conversation in the future, and it's going to be awesome. So if this is your first time watching, your first time listening to the podcast, we've got a full season, season 1 online. You can go check that out, 20 episodes, but we're in the middle of season 2 now. We've got so much amazing guest lined up in the near future. Next week on the podcast, we're going to have Jake Failing. He's a marketing director from, I believe that's his title, from Movement Mortgage here in Charlotte, and just an overall fun guy. So he's going to be in the studio with us next week. We're going to be chatting with him. But in the meantime, if this is your first time, make sure you subscribe. We have a new podcast every Tuesday, 9 a.m. We do live on Facebook, and then it's available on all the podcast platforms after that on iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and all of those. So make sure you check that out, subscribe, and for more information, you can go to locdoc.net/podcast. And we will see you next time right here on the Coffee Break Podcast.